Hello, everyone, and welcome back to WABAN, the movie and TV show podcast where an expert on the subject discusses things with an average viewer. I'm your host, Nim, and today I am joined by a guy who is possessed, but only his hand, interestingly enough.
Help! Just start banging.
Here, do you want me to bring the chainsaw over? I'll help you out with that. Groove. That line, I
loved it so much because
I feel like I know I've heard that before, and like I've seen that scene before. I didn't remember like where it was in the movie, so when he said it, I was like, oh, that's the line.
There it is. But it was just, I noticed that they were building something. Like, what are they building? I thought they were just gonna like grab like tools to fight it off with or something. And then he started building something, just like, oh, they're attaching it to his arm. Hell yeah! And then he revved it up and like sawed off the shotgun, and just like, hell yeah! And then he just goes groovy. I'm just like, this is so absolutely ridiculous, so horrifically stupid, and I love every second of it.
It is a wonderful movie. Yeah, it's interesting because it's it's one of those weird combinations. So it's a horror comedy, really, right?
Right. The second that we watched, oddly enough.
Right, because House is pretty much a horror comedy as well. Mm-hmm. Although House was not scary at all. House was full on comedy. Like, I feel like this movie definitely has a few moments of actual like fear.
I mean, yeah, but
a lot of it's just ridiculous. But like, there's definitely some parts that are like,
right. But it's kind of like you're too busy laughing from the last part to actually be scared of this part.
Right. Yeah. Like I would say, as far as like scary parts, I think one of the most. I mean, any of the parts where it's like there's like the shots where it's I guess the evil is what people refer to it as, is like you never really
the Evil Dead
see what it looks like, and it's like the thing. It's like you just see it from the POV perspective, like coming in, which I think is really cool how they do that. Those are some of the scarier scenes, I think, like especially the one where it like is chasing him and he's like that one long take, which is really awesome, by the way. Like, I love that long take, but it's like somewhat anxiety inducing because it's like this thing is like so close to him and he's just barely getting through, and it's like and it's just that's really cool shot.
Just keep running.
Yeah. But like,
run, you fool.
Like, I think that's one thing that's great about this movie, and just Sam Raimi in general. Like, he's always great at finding like really crazy ways to shoot things, like that aren't like a lot of camera angles, camera movements are just very interesting, fun, and unique. It's never like it's never shot like an average movie, with him. It's great. But interestingly enough, so I've seen the first movie before, like
I have not.
3 years ago or so. So just to give you an idea of how the first movie is. So essentially the first movie is 5 people go to this cabin that they like actually they rented the cabin to stay for a night or whatever. Right. 5 like I'm guessing college students. I don't know. It doesn't. I mean, they're probably closer to college, including Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell's in the first movie. And there's like 5 of them, so it's like him, it's Bruce Campbell, there's a character who's his girlfriend, there's a character who's his sister, and then there's like another guy and his girlfriend. And they go to the cabin, and then like, slowly one of them gets possessed, and they're trying to survive, and then like at the end, all the crazy stuff happens, and then at the end Bruce Campbell's the only one that survives. It's like kind of in the morning, and then all of a sudden it ends with a shot of the evil like running in at him, and like him screaming as it's like running into him, essentially implying that like he was killed at the end, essentially.
Right, okay.
So that's the first movie. Now the first movie is this movie, you could tell, has a much higher budget and just production value in general. The first movie was very much like no money, as little money as possible went into it, and like
Cheap
it was
out on everything.
right for how low the budget was. It's pretty impressive. Like there's a lot of the unique shots and camera angles and stuff that Sam Raimi's known for. But this movie, the second one, is definitely better. And it's weird because in a way the second one isn't really a sequel. It's kind of it is, but it's not. So last time when Filmai, who suggested the movie to us, was describing it, he said that the first like 10 minutes or so are essentially a recap of the first movie in a way. Kind of. So it's like a recap, but also like a complete retelling. So basically what would be counted as the recap section would be he arrives with his girlfriend. They cut out the other characters that were with him in the first movie. It's just him and his girlfriend. Okay. And then, the first night she dies, he survives. And that's essentially the recap section. And it ends, and then there's this part where he gets thrown into the air and launches really far, right?
Mm-hmm. And lands in the puddle.
So essentially the first movie ended with the evil like running towards him, and then it cut. This movie, instead, it's like running towards him, and then it hits him and launches him in the air. So that's kind of where that movie technically ends and this movie starts.
Okay.
In a way. So one other interesting thing that I found out, I was like either yesterday or today or whatever, I was looking up videos about it and just, researching it a little bit. Apparently, the original idea was going to be to actually have clips from the first movie to recap. But for some reason, they didn't have the rights to use the footage.
Yeah.
So they just did their own little recap.
Didn't Jay mention this last time?
I think so. I can't remember.
Yeah. I just remember that being really funny to me.
It's just like, all right, we'll do the recap ourselves.
Yeah, just reshoot the entire movie in 10 minutes. Go.
Yeah. So the first 10 minutes or so is very like they arrive at the cabin. It doesn't waste any time at all. It's like they arrive at the cabin, they find the tape recording, he plays it, which summons the like demons or whatever. It comes, possesses his girlfriend, he fights back, kills his girlfriend, buries her, then gets hit by the evil and launched through the air, and then we're ready to like actually start the movie.
Okay. I'm following so far.
Yeah. So this movie is definitely, I think for sure, better acted than the first movie as well.
I mean, like, groovy.
Bruce Campbell in this movie is just, I don't know how to describe it, just brilliant. Like, insane in all the best ways. Like,
I mean, his character is constantly having a mental breakdown, right? Like,
yes, which, sure, in this situation, it would make sense for someone to have a mental breakdown, but his mental breakdowns are some of the most entertaining mental breakdowns I've ever seen put to screen. And like all the close-ups of his face, he's just like crazed look on his face. It's just like,
yeah, he just looks wild.
Yeah, like honestly, my favorite portion of the movie is like the earlier portion, like when it's just him in the cabin before the other characters get there. Like it's still good after the other characters get there, but like the portion where it's just him dealing with everything in the cabin alone is just amazing. Because it's, his first off, his his girlfriend comes out of the grave, this grotesque dead body version of it, like the head comes up and comes back on and does this weird dance, and then
he's just watching through the window, just like, what is happening?
Yeah. Well, then she comes up and starts bashing his head into the window. Like, I don't know how he doesn't have an extreme concussion after this, like, by the end of this movie.
Well, I mean, that part turned out to be a dream, right?
Well, that part, yeah. But even the rest of the movie, like
him getting thrown against the tree and then falling however far and him just being fine. Like, okay, cool.
Right.
Also, there were so many times where he just got, like, splattered with so much blood, and then the next scene, there was no blood on him.
Right, except, like, a little bit on his face, but that's it.
Right, and it was the same, like, stains on his face that didn't move at all.
Yeah. But, I mean, whatever. That's okay.
I just found it really funny.
That is, it is funny.
He got splattered.
You think more of it would be stained,
from the walls and everything, and then he just wipes his face off and he's fine.
Yeah, just all gone. So there's an interesting thing with a lot of those earlier scenes of just him in the cabin. And there's, like, different theories on, like, what's real and, like, what's actually just in his head, right? So,
and him just panicking and imagining it.
Right. So some of it's obviously real. Like, okay, so he was imagining, it's implied that he was imagining the part where his girlfriend got up and was dancing, because then it goes back in the chair and he's just there like, what just happened? But then the girlfriend's head comes and bites his hand, which that I think is pretty obviously real, because that's what results in
his hand getting possessed. Right.
And obviously we know that's real because he does legitimately cut his hand off, and
it starts walking around.
And it starts walking around. And it even shows up later in the movie when the other characters are there. So, like, that's clearly real.
More than just him sees it.
Right, I think, but one of the scenes that I think is very, like, debatable on whether it was real or not is when everything in the cabin starts laughing at him.
And he just joins on in.
Is a brilliant scene. And the way he looks at that lamp bouncing up and down and just starts bouncing up and down himself is just...
And I just also love, like, how it ends. He just hears something outside through that cacophony and just immediately shotguns it, like, bang, bang. Just
shoot first, ask questions later. I mean, okay, wouldn't you in that situation?
Oh, yeah. Like, he's like, going full insane. Like,
right. But it's like... There were a few scenes of, like, legitimately, like, full on laugh out loud for me. That one was one where he starts bouncing up and down with the lamp.
Yeah.
And then the other one was when his hand was possessed, and so his hand starts smashing his head with plates, right? He falls down. That was funny. That wasn't the full laugh out loud. What really made me laugh is he's laying there, like, pretty much unconscious, and the hand just starts going like looks over at the cleaver and starts dragging his body across.
That was great. Yeah.
For some reason, it just really got to me, and I could not stop laughing. It was
I really liked the moment after his hand gets severed and it's, like, crawling through, like, the mouse holes in the walls, and it, like, gets hit by a mouse trap. He laughs at it, and it just flips him off and runs away before he can shoot it.
Oh, yeah. It's great. It's just genius. It's just, like, I don't know. This is definitely a, like, style over substance type of movie where it's, like, as far as the story goes, the plot, there's no real, like, substance there. It's just whatever. It's just a haunted, it's a haunted cabin. That's the plot, like, whatever. But, like, it's more or less just how everything happens and the details and the little just nuances of it and the just ridiculousness and the style of how it's filmed. And edited and
I just keep thinking of the moment he realizes his hand is turned and he gets it off his face and he's just like, "Give me back my hand, you bastards."
I love that moment. Give me back my hand. And before the hand scene too, there's the mirror scene where he sees himself in the mirror, which that one's definitely probably a hallucination where it's like
probably,
but the effect they did for it was really well done, I think. Like it looked really good. Like
I remember like seeing the transition between his normal reflection and like that like sunken-eyed version of him. I was like, oh, did I just imagine that, or did that actually happen? Was he always like that?
Yeah.
But then, especially when it cuts to like it shows it strangling him, and it shows a close-up of his face, and you realize, no, those are just his hands. Not the reflection's
strangling
hand.
himself, yeah. It's really cool how it's done. Yeah, I really like that. It's just, and there's other just like little details that I really like. So there's this one that I thought was really cool. So when he is in the like shed with like his the girlfriend, you know, the possessed girlfriend, her head is in the clamp thing, and he chops it up with the chainsaw. The blood starts splattering, and I thought it was really cool. So like there's just like a light bulb hanging, lighting up the shed. Blood splatters on the light bulb, and suddenly the light in the room is tinted red now because the blood's like, I was just like, that's just a really cool detail. I just like,
give it a reason to have this dramatic like red lighting. Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah, it was just really cool. Yeah, and
I've always liked video games that do stuff like that, where it's just like, this is like normally just a dramatic tool that means absolutely nothing, but you gave it like an in-canon reason for it to exist.
Yeah.
So I always love stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's just really cool. And I don't know. There are definitely a few moments of like stupid character being stupid, of like classic horror movie things. Specifically, the two like redneck people. They're the dumbest. Like the other two characters, like so Bruce Campbell and then the woman, I forget her name. They're not too dumb, and then the woman's like husband, boyfriend, I don't actually know. The
mascot guy, I think that dies like before he has like 5 lines.
Right. He you don't really get to know him, so he was probably smart enough character, but you don't really get to know him, so you don't really know. But the two redneck people, first off, the woman is dumb because she just runs out in the woods on her own. But like,
the more experienced guy than you has been warning you constantly about, don't go in the woods, there's something out there, and you just run off. Right.
And then the guy is dumb because he's like, okay, obviously he's freaking out about, you know, his girlfriend slash wife, I don't know. The love of his life, you assume, is out there and he wants to save her. Obviously he's worried about her, right?
Right.
That makes sense. But like, he just throws those pages underneath. Like, come on. Like, clearly there's something important. And he's like, yeah, this mumbo jumbo bullshit. And I'm like,
that's gonna save your life.
I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, it's one thing to not believe in like demon possession and all this magic stuff, but like, you've witnessed it. You saw it. Like, people were possessed. So why are you not gonna be like, oh, this paper's just bullshit? Like, there's evidence.
You saw it with your own eyes.
There's literally a ghost guy like appeared. The ghost of her dad appeared to tell you that the pages are important and that you need them, and like, and you're not gonna believe. Like, you absolute moron. So when he dies, I was pretty happy.
Or like the other guy that just died in front of you just stands up and starts floating and like talking to you. Nah, definitely fake.
Yeah. But it's like, and also like, it's one of those situations of like a dumb character causes the rest of the movie to happen. Like,
Yeah.
like if he had not done that, they could have taken the papers right then and there and finished it right
If
then
they
and there
would've-
and been done
if
with
they
it.
would have recited the passages fast enough, they might have even be able to save the girl. But nope.
Right, yeah. They don't know if she's dead yet or not. They might have been able to, like, all right, let's get this done, and then once we're done, let's go find her, you know?
Yeah,
Once we're
see
done.
if we're fast enough to save her.
But nope, this guy ruined it all.
Yeah.
Another one thing I do want to mention about the scene where his girlfriend gets like attacked by the trees, right?
Right.
That is actually a sort of reference to the first movie. There's a scene pretty much just like that. Although the first movie is a little bit more what's a good way to put this? Well, basically, it's known as the tree rape scene from the first movie.
Oh.
So the first movie, it like grabs her and like holds her down, you know, grabs all of her limbs. But there's like one of the branches like literally goes like right up her like I don't know, skirt or whatever she's wearing, like in a very like it's so they toned that back a little bit in this movie.
Yeah, it just went down her throat and I think pierced her skin and wiggled around in there a little bit.
It wasn't as like as rapey in this movie. The scene.
I mean, that's good. I shouldn't be congratulating something on that, but great.
I mean, either way, like, I mean, it's evil.
Terrible either way.
It's an evil spirit, so it's like, you know, it's not like, so it makes sense that they would be, you know, violate you like that, but you know, because it's like an evil spirit, but still. But I think it's kind of cool that they like, because like that scene started happening, and I was like, the trees. Oh, no. I was like, I was like,
and start panicking.
I was like, okay, that wasn't as bad as the first. That wasn't as extreme as the first movie. Okay. But because in the first movie, she actually escaped the tree attacking her. She was able to like rip away from it, but she came back to the cabin, and she was the first person to be possessed because of that. That's what happened in the first movie. In this movie, it's implied that she just was drug away and killed, pretty much. Never seen again. But
I now hate that we don't know what happens to her after you told me that, because that gives it a different possibility than her just dying.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. Well, I mean, you know, I'm sure. I don't know. But
I don't like this movie as much.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, it's funny because it's a very like dark movie.
Oh yeah.
But it has enough like just absolutely ridiculous comedy kind of moments to make you not as like terrified as it technically should be.
I mean, let's just go through this, right? People die, their corpses get up and manipulate the living to try to kill them.
Yeah.
This one guy is like having a mental breakdown like constantly throughout the movie. He had to chop up his own girlfriend.
And then chop his own hand off.
Yeah. One guy, two people lost their significant others to this thing and then got killed because of it later. Like, this is a dark movie, and it's just like guy trying to shoot his hand through a wall. It flips him off. It's hitting plates off his head.
Yes, I know. It's great.
Gets a chainsaw to replace his hand and just goes groovy.
Groovy. I still love that. It's just like
so dumb. I love it.
And then I think the ending of the movie is interesting as well. So
talk
about that
time travel stuff.
Yeah, so like it mentions in the movie like, oh, it'll open up a rift in time and space or whatever.
And earlier in the same book, or well, I guess it was the different pages, but they saw the hero of the past that vanquished the evil.
Right. And immediately when it showed that, I knew that person who vanquished evil was going to be him because because I already knew that the plot of the third movie was him going back in time. Like I already knew that was because that's what the third. So this is essentially setting up for the third movie. But
yeah, I didn't know that, and I could tell. Like I've done that trick in like high school writing projects just because why not?
Yeah, creating like that time loop thing. Like yeah.
Just like, oh, here we go. This is what you're gonna do, really?
But I love like he just lands, then he just opens, and all these guys are like, kill it! All these knights, they do the classic. We don't know what it is. Kill it. Until he saves them, and then they're like, oh,
hail, and you just no.
Oh, I love that screaming. No. He's like, no. Like he probably remembers the prophecy and realizes he's like, wait, I'm that guy in the oh no, remembers the thing.
As soon as he attached the chainsaw to his arm, it was just like, oh, that thing in the picture wasn't like a big club, it was a chainsaw. Okay, I get it.
Well, it said something about like his boomstick or something, which is like his gun. I don't know if it did or if that's just a line from the next movie. Maybe it is that I've heard, like where he tells them like the gun is like his boomstick or something like that. Because obviously they don't understand what a gun is.
Right, or a chainsaw. They think it's probably just his natural arm.
Yeah, or a car, because his car also fell back in time.
That was another thing that I noticed. The car like shattered on impact, and he's just fine. Like, I guess he's more durable than a car then for some reason.
I mean, have you seen the rest of the movie? He gets thrown 50 feet in the air, smashed into trees, head smashed by plates, thrown downstairs.
Maybe it's just the fact that he's like part zombie now, because he transforms into zombie like twice in the movie. And
that's true. That's true. It could have something to do with that, maybe.
Does he ever turn back in the third movie?
I don't know. I'd have to watch it. I really want to watch the third movie now. I will say that.
And like, did he turn back because he had that little amulet? Because when he picked it up before he turned back, or is this just like a memory thing?
I think it's a memory thing because that reminded him of his girlfriend and because that was hers, or that was like a thing that he gave to her, I think.
Right, but there's so much things unclear about this one aspect of him just being able to turn back from being a zombie, because he did it the first time when he was unconscious just because the sun came up for some reason.
Well, yeah, I think so. The idea, and this was an idea in the first movie too, I think, was that like during the day the possessions kind of stop, and like they're not, it's like the spirits and stuff, evil spirits are like active more at night, and like during the day it's more safe.
Okay.
Like when the sun comes up.
So any night he has the chance of turning into that thing.
I guess so.
But then is this also true for anybody else who is possessed, that they can just turn it off if they, remember and will it so?
That was a little confusing. I was like, okay, so he turned into a zombie, and I was like, okay, okay, he's like the main character, so he's probably not going to be like that for the rest of the movie, right? Mm-hmm. And then, there was that scene, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, he turned back. So what? Could he have just gotten his girlfriend back, reattached her head, and she would have been all good?
Like, maybe. What? I don't. What? Yeah, I'm not sure all the details on how this stuff works. I feel it's not very well. Nothing's really explained. It's just kind of things happen, and you just accept it. I think it's one of those kind of movies.
I'm not very good at that. I like asking questions and figuring out how things work.
It's a movie you just watch and just have fun with, and that's it. Well, yeah, I don't know. So maybe it's like something about him makes him like more resistant to it than other people, maybe.
He just has a case of the protagonist syndrome, I guess.
Yeah. So there was something I was just gonna say, but I don't remember. Oh man, I hate when that happens. I'm just that scene where he turned back, and then it was like, because that was the scene where after that the woman obviously started attacking him, because it's been shown up to this point that the zombie, the people who are possessed, can turn back into their old self to try to trick you, like her mom did that. Yeah. So she has no reason to believe that he's okay. And he's just screaming at her, I'm all right. I'm like, are you all right though?
Yeah, you're like, have your hand around her neck and are right in her face, screaming.
Yes,
like, you're not all right.
You're all right in the sense that the possession isn't there anymore, but you're not all right in the head at all.
Yeah, like remember when you were laughing with all like the lamp and the severed animal heads?
Definitely not all right. Yeah. So, but yeah, the woman died in the end, right? Yeah, she did, because she finished the incantation with her like final breath.
And then, as his severed hand stabs her in the back.
One thing that was so weird. Okay, so she starts reading the incantations, but then like she hears like him screaming from down in the cellar or whatever, and she stops for a minute and walks over to look. I'm like, just keep reading. Just block everything out and keep reading. So she reads. She's like, I finished the part that like brings them all back. You know,
I finished the bad part. I just
and then stop. And then decided to take a break. The part that makes them all come in really powerful. And I decided to take a break before reading the part that actually sends them away.
Yeah. I'm also delaying me reading the second part by talking to you and explaining this.
It's like, just don't think. Just read it. Don't say anything. Just read it.
Just fix it, and we can both survive and not have only one of us survive. There was also, I think it was a little bit earlier than that scene where she accidentally stabs the hillbilly dude, the redneck, whatever you want to call him. And then
which is good, because that guy needed to die.
I mean, he was kind of an asshole, and he almost got them killed, so whatever.
He's the one who ruined everything.
She drags him over by the basement hatch. Stupid, by the way. He gets dragged under, and there's like all this blood and gore coming out, and I'm just like, this is excessive. And I just remember it kept cutting to the face of the deer or the elk that was mounted on the wall. I just remember the look in that thing's eyes, like, holy shit, look at this dude. How much blood does he have? Because it was just so wide-eyed, and its mouth was hanging open. It was so funny to me.
It's like, how do you have this much blood? Like,
it was just so shocked. Even though it was dead. I loved it so much.
But yeah, why did she just set him right there next to, like, she knows that there's a possessed dead woman under there, like,
that has access to like a 2-foot reach as long as she can get her arm through.
One thing that is confusing about that scene though is she reaches in and pulls his body under. If it's wide enough for her to pull the body under, why was Ash like stuck under there earlier? Like, why did they need to unlock it to get him out earlier?
Yeah.
Couldn't he, like, if it's wide enough for that?
I didn't think of that at all, but that's a good point. It's wide enough for this guy. Why isn't it wide enough for everything else?
Right. It's like, okay. But, you know, whatever. Just a small plot hole, not really a big issue.
Yeah, just a small plot hole that would have gotten them all killed. Releasing the granny from the basement.
But yeah, it's interesting, like, different things they do that are similar to the first movie. So like, that was actually them locking like a possessed person under, like, in the cellar with like locked, like, that was actually something that happened in the first one too. So that's kind of cool that they like do little things that are like similar to the first one. And I think the little like necklace that
little like glass lens thing.
That's in the first one. Like, he gave it to his girlfriend in the first one too. So there's like little things like that. And like, unlike when he buried her and he made that like little wooden cross that he put in, that was from the first movie. just little things. And like the scene where like you could just see her hand like pop out from the grave, like that's an image from the first movie. Like there's a lot.
Is that where that trope comes from, or is that from earlier?
I don't know. I mean, there's probably
that's
other
a whole thing in zombie movies, just the single hand bursting through the dirt.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny because this is like it's interesting how like this is like it's not really a zombie movie, but it's like it's a demon possession movie crossed with like zombie type stuff, crossed with like I don't know. It's just weird, like haunted house, but also it's like I don't know.
It's just like supernatural horror, and zombies happen to be in that mix, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, this is one of those movies though where I'm like, man, they need to really get an exorcist to come in here. This is get that holy water in here.
Don't read the book.
Yeah.
Burn it, perhaps.
He didn't read the book. He just played a recording of it that somebody else read.
So, burn the book and the recording, is what you're saying.
Yes. Well, the first movie, I think, ends with them burning the book, actually.
Oh. I mean, good for them. That's smart.
Which is, again, why the second movie really isn't a sequel. It's, like, kind of a pseudo remake-ish. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I don't know.
Like the second and the third one, I think, are very obviously, linked. Like, the second one and then the third one, it takes place after. They're very much like the end of the second one was very clearly like setting up for a sequel, or at least the idea of a sequel. Even if it, and then the third one follows up with like, but the first movie is like not really connected. Yeah. Like it's basically a separate thing. Like it's like
same universe, but like the second movie is like, what if that didn't happen and instead it kept going?
What if it was like what if it happened like this instead? Yeah. What if he went there with just his girlfriend and nobody else?
and only he survived, and they never burned a book, and everything happened.
And then all the rest of this stuff happened. But
what if we extend it so we can make more money?
Well, I'm glad they did, though, because I think this one is so much better than the first one. Like, the first one did not have a scene where somebody had a possessed hand, And the first one did not have any of the extreme, hilarious acting moments from Bruce Campbell. So I think the thing is the first movie was very much made with the intention of being pretty much pure horror, like scary, not really, not any, but then there were certain moments that were like unintentionally funny.
Okay.
And I think
then they just owned it in the second one.
Right. I think Sam Raimi, because of that, was like, people thought some of this stuff was funny. I'm going to lean into the funny stuff and like really in the insanity, and really did. And I think that the movie's so much better for it, and, but yeah.
We keep going back to his possessed hand and it just smashing plate after plate on his head. I keep thinking of the moment where like he passes out, it starts dragging him, but then he stabs it and he just goes, "Who's laughing now?" And it's just like, it's a hand, they can't laugh. What are you screaming about?
Like the scene of like the hand smashing plates on his head and stuff, I'm just thinking like, okay, so this is like if the Three Stooges was crossed with like The Exorcist or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, like, yeah. Like it's not serious at all. It's
it's great.
And even his acting in that moment of him just like progressively getting more and more woozy, and like you can see the concussion worsening, and he just the look in his eyes and his expression of just, what? Who's there? And wham, and he passes out.
Yeah, no, I love. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Bruce Campbell is great in this. Like the first movie, his acting isn't bad, but it's not nearly as like out there. It's like very like average. Like he's scared, he's trying to get through the situation alive. It's not as
instead
as
of like
entertaining.
Full on mental breakdown.
Yeah. This is definitely more entertaining. Like I like the first movie.
Yeah.
It's a great as like a cult classic, cheaply made indie movie, right? But yeah, this takes the concept and really does something fun and interesting with it.
Full potential.
It really, yeah, I think that's what it is like the first movie was the first attempt at the concept with a very low budget, and then the second movie is like, okay, we're taking what worked about that concept and like really running with it, I think, is this movie. And then whereas the third movie is like just a different story altogether, different vibe altogether. Cause I think the third movie leans a lot more into action movie, I believe, where it's like the third movie is called Army of Darkness, and it's follows from the end of this movie. He goes back in time and he's with like the knights and stuff, and it's them like having a war against the Deadites, as they call them. So
Deadites, that's dumb.
Such a dumb name. Yeah,
because that's like the classic scheme for like a faction of whatever, the ites, the something ites or whatever.
Well, that's true. That's probably where they came up with the name, because the name, you never hear the name Deadite until that end scene where he's like, oh, he killed the Deadite. Like, and you're like,
yeah, it's probably just like, how do you name a faction, or like
the Israelites, the I don't know.
I can't actually think of any real examples, but that's a thing.
Canaanites, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But then,
so it's just they're dead.
So
the Deadites, yeah.
So dumb.
So dumb, but so great.
Oh, you did mention earlier the difference between his acting in this one and the last one, of him just being scared and having a full-on mental breakdown. Like, but that's also like a lot more realistic when you think about it, because you're not just like about to die, you're about to die from something that completely shatters your worldview. Like, you can't be just scared. You have to be like fully panicking and like sundered to the foundations of your world.
Yeah, and like he also went through like chopping his girlfriend's head in half.
Yeah.
Like the love of his life, chopping. Like, yeah, that's gonna mess you up. Like especially after, because like one of the most terrifying things of it too is like these, when they're possessed, they're able to revert back to looking like the old person and be like, it's me, don't hurt me, you wouldn't hurt me,
like fully fuck with you emotionally. Yeah,
and like she did that, and he did it anyways. And like the woman, her mom tried to do that, and he was like, no, that's not your mother. And she's like, yeah, it's really messed up stuff. But it doesn't creep you out too much because of the tone, like because there's enough of the just hilarious, ridiculous stuff to really pull you out of the just really falling into how messed up everything is.
Yeah, I remember like a lot of the acting of when he's like, like shouting no, or like having a breakdown that's actually like should be like emotional and like heart-wrenching, of like when he's about to chop up his girlfriend's head. But I'm just thinking about all the other ridiculous crap that has happened up until now. I'm just like, God, I can't take this seriously. Like, it's so good, I'm entertained like fully, but like nah.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, is it really just immerses you in just the ridiculousness of it, which I think is, I mean, that's the movie's strength, is especially with just how it's edited. Like, I think a lot of the way like there's a lot of like just crazy shots with how the shots are moving and stuff. Like, it's just crazy stuff. Like I already said, I love the long take where the camera's like chasing him.
Yeah.
And like the camera just gets shattered through a window and stuff. Like for those shots, they probably literally took a camera and just shoved it through a window, you know? Like,
I love the idea that, like, okay, camera, I'm the cameraman. What am I doing? Throw your camera through the window.
Well,
what? Yeah, just throw it.
What's funny is in the first movie, you know how I said like there's a shot where at the end of the movie where like the camera's like rushing towards him and he like looks at it and he screams before like cutting, right? Mm-hmm. Apparently, the way they filmed that, Sam Raimi had the camera riding a motorcycle right at Bruce Campbell, and apparently he apparently hit him and he like broke a few ribs or something from that shot. Like Sam Raimi is just like, hey, you know, have you ever seen those like memes like on like TikTok and stuff? It's like, oh, this is why women live longer than men. You know, that reminds me of one of those kind of moments.
Oh yeah,
because like they're two, like Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell were like really good friends. So it's like two friends just like, hey, hey bro, like what if I just rammed you with this motorcycle? Oh yeah, do. It just reminds me of that, but put a camera on it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Just like the full on like a golden retriever as just full enthusiasm and excitement for something so stupid and it's gonna get you killed.
Well, it's funny because in that shot the camera moves like through, so Bruce Campbell's standing outside of the building. He walks out the next morning. Mm-hmm. It goes through the building, like through the back door and then out the front door and hits him. And like the back door like slams open from the camera. Like, so he literally took the motorcycle and drove it and slammed through the back door, drove through the cabin, through the front door, right into Bruce Campbell. It's the first movie is a very interesting production. Like just looking at like the production history of the first movie is really interesting because it's very like they had like no money really, and like just apparently like during the filming of the movie the cast like actually and everybody like actually stayed in that cabin while they were filming the movie. I heard like because they didn't really have money to like put them up in a hotel or something. Like
yeah, you know this cabin that you're filming a horror movie in? Yeah, you're gonna sleep in it.
It's just great. But I still just love because I was just watching like it was a video I was watching where they were talking about the movie and they're like, yeah, like he just drove a motorcycle with a camera on this shot, and I was like, oh,
what?
Okay.
He just ran over his friend?
Yeah. Like, I don't think there's anything quite as crazy like that for the second movie as far as, like, the filmmaking goes. How they did different shots. I mean, there's probably other crazy stories with the second one, definitely. Yeah. But
I mean, probably most of it went into the movie itself and not the making of the movie. Yeah,
exactly. One thing you can also tell with the second movie compared to the first movie is the special effects budget. You can tell like the special effects are far better in the second movie. Like the special effects makeup on like the people who are possessed is so much more like detailed and interesting in the second movie. Like when the one guy is possessed, it's like his mouth is like wide open and there's like multiple rows of teeth. Like, yeah, there's like crazy things like that.
Like, how many rows of teeth does this guy have? Like, what is he, a shark? Yeah. Where'd they come from?
Right. Yeah.
He was alive just like 30 seconds ago.
Whereas like the first one, like the first movie, it looks decent, but like you can tell it's like, you know, not nearly as like well detailed, put together, like and like not as much money put into it as well.
Right.
But like the second movie, there's a lot of crazy just special effects. Like at the end when there's that like giant thing like right at the door.
Yeah, the face like that's stuck in the doorway.
Yeah, and like crazy stuff like that. It's
and the branches coming through and grabbing the guy.
Yeah. No, special effects are great in this, and there's actually some pretty decent stop motion scenes. Like, you can tell when it's stop motion compared to
like when the girlfriend's corpse is dancing.
Right. There's that, and then there's another one where like he's fighting. There's the one thing, like the neck grows really long. You can tell like shots like that are stop motion. Like you could tell they're stop motion, but they're pretty well done stop motion. You know, as far as stop motion goes, they're pretty good, like pretty well done. So
there's
it's
in other movies you've mentioned like them using toys or like scale props and stuff to like do stuff. Two scenes, my brain was like, is that also that thing that them doing that little trick? Just like when they're driving over the bridge, like to actually get in the place that looks like a toy car. That's a toy car.
Yeah, that probably was. I think you're right. Yeah, I think that one was. I'm guessing.
And then there's when he goes back to that bridge and they have like the same camera angle, but showing that it's like all ripped up and blocking off.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's definitely like a model. Like they definitely didn't actually make a bridge like that. Yeah.
Right, but his tiny little figure like shouting no on the cliff. You're just like, that's a toy. That's not him.
Okay, another really weird thing that I'm not sure that was really weird to me when I was watching. So the first night happens, right, where his girlfriend dies and everything. He survives. Right. The morning happens. He gets smacked 50 feet in the air. You know, he wakes. He's possessed for a second. The sun comes out. He's not possessed anymore. He goes to leave, and he's like, the bridge is, destroyed. I can't leave. No, what do I do? And then the sun starts going down again, and I'm like, wait. What?
Yeah, it was really fast.
Huh? Well, how much time has passed?
Well, because it was like midday when he finally woke up. And so, like, even if he woke up very late, it should have shown, like, in the lighting, but it didn't at all.
I'm like, I thought the sun, like, just came up not that long ago, and it's going down again. It's like something about this evil forest just makes the sun set sooner than normal. I don't know.
Yeah. It was even shown, like, they show the sunset at, like, he watches it go down, and it just, like, moves across the sky like so fast. Like, how fast is this? Like, what is happening in this world that the sun is setting so quickly?
Yeah. It's yeah, I don't know. But I'm definitely interested in watching the third movie now. Like, I don't know about you.
Why not at this point? Like,
yeah, like even if
we Chainsaw Hand Man go out with a bunch of knights, like, why not?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, guy with a chainsaw and a sawed-off double-barrel shotgun. Just
the only downside I see to this is eventually he will run out of both bullets and gasoline, so he's eventually going to be useless.
Yeah, but like, it definitely seems like the type of movie that I'll just not even think about that and just be like,
giving him more.
He has tons. It's fine. This isn't the type of movie that makes it realistic. This isn't the type of movie that's realistic with how much ammo somebody can have.
Right, like all action movies where it's just like, yeah, this is my pistol. Shoots like 50 bullets in a single clip, never reloads throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, it's like he finally reloads his magazine. It's like, wait, you just shot like 50 shots. Or like, oh no, this is my last shot. Yeah, your last shot after 50? What?
Yeah. Like,
he runs out of ammo only when it's the most inconvenient moment to run out of ammo,
Only the dramatically appropriate moments.
Yeah. There are movies that have like actually put attention to detail to doing it accurately, like counting like the shots and stuff. Like
right.
Like I've never seen them, but I'm pretty sure John Wick is pretty accurate with it. Like where like he actually reloads when it makes sense, and like
that's one that we should watch.
That's true. We should watch John Wick. I've never seen. There's 3 of them now, and I've never seen any of them. So that is true. Speaking of Keanu Reeves, we were just talking about The Matrix before we started the podcast.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But anyways, yeah. I just 2 things that I think the 2 things that really make this movie as great as it is first of all, Bruce Campbell, perfect actor for this, right? Nobody else could have pulled this off the way he did.
I don't know enough about any of that to make that decision, but I can agree with you. I did love him in this. It's great.
I've seen Bruce Campbell in other things before. I've never seen him like this. I knew that he was pretty insane in this movie. The way he acted, it was pretty insane in these movies. But I was not ready for just how insane. And it's really good acting too. He plays the insanity and the ridiculousness really well, to where it feels realistic too. It's he does a really good job with it.
Yeah, he kind of matches the tone of the movie. So even though it's really over the top, it matches, so you don't really notice it, or it makes sense.
Yeah, it's an acting performance that could have been, that if slightly off, would have really just been annoying to watch, or not good. But I think he lands it just perfect. Groovy. So anyways, the 2 things is Bruce Campbell and also Sam Raimi as the director. His direction is really good. Just the way everything's filmed, shot, and edited together. That combination is just brilliant. To the point where I'm always excited anytime, I see if Sam Raimi's doing something. Because he hasn't directed a lot of movies, really. He's I've looked it up. He's directed these 3 movies. He's directed the 3 Spider-Man movies.
Which 3?
The first 3, the Tobey Maguire ones, the meme ones.
Okay, yeah.
Which it's Sam Raimi, so it makes sense that he would direct meme movies, memeable movies, and he hasn't really directed a lot. I remember I looked it up because I was curious, and he's directed a few other movies other than that, that I've never really heard of. But apparently, I found out. So next year there's going to be a second Doctor Strange movie.
Oh.
It's Multiverse of Madness is the title. So obviously it deals with... So I think a lot of the new MCU stuff is all about the multiverse.
Right. They've already finished the story for the main one, so they got to advance to the next.
Right. So it was, it's kind of introduced with things like Loki, the Loki show, introduced a lot of multiverse stuff. And then obviously the new Spider-Man movie is all about multiverse, and the Doctor Strange movie is literally titled Multiverse of Madness. I was never super excited for the second Doctor Strange movie, because I like Doctor Strange fine. I think he's and Benedict Cumberbatch plays him well. Whatever. He fits
British
the role.
Guy, funny name.
Right. He fits the role that he's supposed to fit within the MCU well. So I wasn't super excited, but I was looking up Sam Raimi stuff, and apparently Sam Raimi is directing it. Which
oh boy.
Now the one thing I'm worried about is okay, because it's the MCU, I'm hoping that they might not give him enough creative control. I hope they do, because a lot of people agree that out of the 3 Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, the 3rd one is the worst. The 3rd one has a lot of memes. It's very memeable, but it's as a movie, it's the worst one, because a lot of it came down to studio interference. The studio forced him to put the villain of Venom in, which he didn't want to do. And a lot of people say that one of the biggest problems with it is that it's over bloated. There's too many plots going on, too many villains. Part of that is because he wasn't going to do Venom, because he wasn't going to for the story.
Venom in
but
there.
they Venom was a really popular Spider-Man villain, so they're you have to do, So Sam Raimi is much always better when you just kind of let him go and let him do what he wants.
Aren't most people?
For the most part. I mean, sometimes you need a little... Yeah, it depends on the director, I think. It really depends, but...
Oh, yeah.
There's definitely situations where, somebody needs some... to be kept in check, But,
Don't
but
go
like...
too crazy.
I'm worried because, it is Marvel. It is the MCU. It is owned by Disney. It is like they might be a little controlling over the vision of the movie. Be like, oh, we don't go too crazy. But it's Sam Raimi. You want him to go too crazy. Come on.
That's what he does.
Yeah, it's like, so I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. But I am automatically so much more interested in that movie than I ever was before, just because I found out Sam Raimi's directing it.
Oh my God. I don't know. As soon as you said that, my brain was like, it's not going to be a Benedict Cumberbatch. I can't even say his name right if I try, but it's not going to be that guy's movie. It's going to be a British guy funny name movie.
Yes. But well, it's interesting because I'm like, okay, they got Sam Raimi to direct an MCU movie.
Mm-hmm.
Why wasn't it the Spider-Man movie that they're doing? The one that literally involves versions of Spider-Man characters coming into the world that he directed originally.
Right.
So why isn't he directing that is what I'm wondering.
I don't know.
Like if they're going to get him to direct one of the MCU movies, it might as well be the one that has characters that he's directed before.
Yeah.
Like the same actors playing the same versions of the characters too.
Right, they have announced that that guy is coming, that Spider-Man is coming back as that Spider-Man?
I don't think that it's confirmed that the other Spider-Men are back, but it's confirmed certain villains are back. So
okay.
Dr. Octopus, the original actor, is there. I think Willem Dafoe is there as Green Goblin.
Right.
And there's a few others. I know Sandman's there. I don't know if it's the original actor. But he's in the trailer. But yeah. But people are pretty skeptical. People are like, yeah, they're probably going to bring back the other Spider-Man. They're just trying to hide it. That's what people are assuming, at least. So I don't want to get my hopes up and assume that they are, because if it turns out that I'm wrong and Tobey Maguire's not in it, then well.
I mean, Marvel has always done multiverse stuff, and you already have so many different versions of Spider-Man with so many different actors, and you've announced a multiverse movie. So why not?
Well,
why wouldn't you do this?
Well, right. The only thing that would prevent you from doing it is if the actor turned it down. Like if Tobey Maguire turned it down.
Right.
But I don't think Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield, the previous other two Spider-Man actors, I don't think they would turn it down.
I mean, why not? They're kind of known for it, aren't they?
From what
to a certain extent.
From what I know about them, I feel like they would be the type of people who wouldn't turn that down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless I'm wrong. So we'll see. But I just thought it was funny. I was like, okay, you're getting Sam Raimi to direct an MCU movie. Why is it not that one?
Yeah, why is it not the one that he already kind of directed before?
Right, exactly. Same characters, actors, all that. But one thing, though, I wonder who... If the director... Maybe it's because the director was the person who directed the previous few Spider-Man movies. I don't know. Spider-Man No Way Home. Let's see. So the director is... I'm actually interested in this. John Watts. Okay, I think he's the same director who directed Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home, I believe. Maybe? No. Here, I'd have to look at it. I think he is, but I could be wrong. So, because if that's the case, then that's why they didn't get Sam Raimi to direct, because they wanted the same guy who directed the previous. Yeah, okay. He's the same guy who directed Spider-Man Homecoming. I'm guessing, and Spider-Man No Way Home. Yeah, no, wait, Spider-Man Far From Home. Yeah, that's what I mean.
They all have similar names.
Whatever. They all have home
Far
and
From Home.
I think that's a cool way of naming the movies instead of just Spider-Man 1, 2, 3.
I mean,
well, there already are movies called Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, so you kind of had to do something different. But
well, I always like the number system with that, because it's like, yeah, you can actually tell which one comes first and what order you watch in.
Yeah, that's true.
Instead of having to look it up every time.
Or like, yeah, I mean, it's not that hard to keep track of if you keep up with it, at least.
If you keep up with it.
But well, it's kind of like how with Evil Dead, it's like Evil Dead. There's the Evil Dead. There's Evil Dead 2. But then Army of Darkness. It's not even called Evil Dead Army of Darkness. Terrible. It's just Army of Darkness.
Yeah, like...
Why would you name it like I've looked it up and I'm like, I always thought it was just called Evil Dead Army of Darkness. But no, the title is literally just Army of Darkness.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's keep all the fans guessing if it's a part of the series or not.
Right. Like, it is, but like...
But it's not made clear.
Why wouldn't you name it that? Because like studios constantly want to cash in on popular names, you know? So why wouldn't they like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird. Another interesting thing about Evil Dead. So I think I've said before, there's the 3 movies and there's a remake, right? I think I told you that.
Yes, you have.
I don't remember if it was while we were recording or if it was
oh, who knows at this point?
Before we started recording. I don't know if I told you. But anyways, there's also, at one point, there was a show based on these movies called Ash versus the Evil Dead.
Ash
which
being the main character, right?
Yes. Ash Williams is the main character, is who Bruce Campbell plays. So Bruce Campbell's in this show. It looks like it came out, and there's 3 seasons, started in 2015. And I'm interested in watching it. I don't think it's directed by Sam Raimi. Maybe he was a producer, or maybe he was involved. I don't know. I think Sam Raimi's brother shows up in the show at one point. Because Sam Raimi's brother was actually... I think it's like Ted Raimi? Something like that? I might have that wrong. Ed Raimi? Ted Raimi? Ted? I think it's Ted. I don't know. I could be wrong. But he's actually in Evil Dead 2. He's in one of the, like... So the mother, like possessed mother, the costume where she comes out and it's like that gross, like fat, whatever looking costume, like really weird. That's, I believe, Ted Raimi in the suit. Sam Raimi's brother.
Get his name right first.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like, let me just look up. Wait, would he be on the cast list?
I mean, maybe.
Maybe, probably.
Or we can just look up what is Sam Raimi's brother. What's his name?
But I just think that's cool. It's Sam Raimi's brother's in it. Let's see. I'm just looking for it. He probably would be on the cast list because he was in the costume of it. But I don't actually see him on
but you're
here.
gonna take time to look through it instead of just looking up his brother.
Yeah, it's Ted Raimi. Yeah, it is. It is. But so I'm actually interested in watching Ash versus the Evil Dead. I don't know like where you can watch the show on, but I'm just interested just because it's like the same character, but like a show about him.
But is it like? Is
good?
Like, I mean that for one, but also, does it fit in with the movies at all?
I believe so.
And if so, when is it in the timeline? Is it like between the? Is it like before?
It's after. It's after because he's older. It's like Bruce Campbell obviously is much older now. So it's like I think it's like years later, I believe, and like he's an older person. So it's so he's like playing the same character. I don't really know like Oh, it looks like in some of the images, it looks like he has like a robotic hand.
That's dumb. I love it.
I mean, he loses his hand in the movie, so
Yeah, but like
he's gonna not have a hand still. And it looks like there's some shots from the show where he has a chainsaw on his hand too. It looks like I'm looking at images.
Still stuck in the past though.
Well, I think he maybe finds a way back to the future. I don't really know how it works.
That's
Back to the Future. Oh, yeah, that's true. We could put that on a list of movies
the list.
to do.
Bring up the list.
Oh, here's a picture from the show that says "Stay Groovy." Okay, groovy. Like, of all the lines, of all the like badass like lines you could say of like just geared up, ready to take on these bitches. You know, that type of scene. Like, of all the lines you could say, groovy is just the best one.
Mm-hmm. There's a few one-liners in this movie, like I'll swallow your soul, I'll swallow your soul, swallow this.
Boom. And I love it though because Bruce Campbell also makes a cameo in all 3 of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies.
Really?
Which is great. So I don't know, have you seen those movies at all?
I have, however, it's been probably upwards of a decade. Okay,
yeah, it's been a little bit since I've seen them too, but I think I saw the first one more recently. But the first one, he's like, you know, the scene where Spider-Man goes to like the wrestling ring to like fight the guy to win money. He's the announcer of the fight.
Okay.
And then I know in the third movie he plays. So Peter goes out to eat with MJ at a really fancy French restaurant where he's going to propose to her, and he's a French waiter. He's like the French like waiter.
Oh, I remember you talking about this.
So it's just Bruce Campbell, it's like talking in a French accent, acting all fancy and stuff, like, which is honestly hilarious. But yeah, so I kind of hope he makes a cameo in Doctor Strange, just because it's directed by Sam Raimi.
I mean, they have to, right? No, it'd be dumb.
I think they have to. They have to.
It'd be so good, but it'd be so dumb. Make him like an alternate universe Doctor Strange.
That's what Bruce Campbell is, Doctor Strange.
The best medicine is laughter.
Yeah. I feel like he should make a cameo in the new Spider-Man movie just because, even though Sam Raimi's not directing, but just because they're bringing back characters from that version of Spider-Man, he should just make a cameo. Like,
make 3 different cameos, one for each movie.
As each one of the different cameos he made, each character shows up in the movie. That would be hilarious.
And make them like back to back, so it's just like, wait, didn't we just see this guy?
That right there would be worth the price of admission to this movie. Yeah. That right there is enough. I mean, the fact that they're already getting J.K. Simmons to be J. Jonah Jameson again is already just perfect. A Bruce Campbell cameo would be great. I don't know if they're going to do it, but they definitely should.
They should. It needs to happen. Get a Patreon for it. Come on.
I mean, the movie's already done now, so it's like it's already made. Like, it's coming out in like a week or 2. So
really? I think
it might be next week. It might even be the end of this week. I don't know. It's really soon. Actually, when is it coming out? I'm going to look this up. Anyways, we should probably get ready to close the podcast anyways. We're just rambling on about how all these actors and different things there, whatever.
I mean, it's somewhat related.
It is. So it's coming out 2021, really? Yeah, I already know that.
Wow,
the date.
helpful.
What's the date? December 17th. Yeah, so it's this weekend.
Wow.
That it's coming out. So, yeah. I have a feeling it's going to be potentially the highest grossing movie of the year. Okay, so Willem Dafoe is on the cast list. Okay, good. Jamie Foxx. So I'm going to see who's on the cast list, actually. they probably wouldn't have like the other Spider-Man on the cast list because that's probably like a surprise. So they're not going to have them there. Let's see who we got. Do they have? Yeah. Okay. So they do have the original guy who played Sandman. Okay, good. They have Thomas Hayden Church. That's good. That's good.
Ooh.
What? Oh, okay. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I'm probably about ready to close this. This podcast. I think we've been rambling for a bit here. We haven't actually talked about the movie that we were talking about in a little bit here.
It's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. But anyways, yeah, we both really enjoyed this movie. It's definitely something like I recommend to anyone. Because why not?
Yeah,
you just gotta see Evil Dead 2. Even if you've seen Evil Dead 1 and think it's good, like, or even if you've seen Evil Dead 1 and you don't really like it, even like you gotta see Evil Dead 2.
I have a question. Why are you recommending it at the end of a review?
That's true.
They would have already seen it if they're watching.
That's true, because we spoiled the entire thing. So if you've... Yeah. If you've listened this far into the podcast and you haven't seen the movie for some reason, I highly recommend it. Yeah.
Yeah, this doesn't make any sense. It's not how this works.
Well, you know what? It's fine. Yeah, this is not a spoiler-free review, so yeah. But anyways, yeah, so thank you all for listening. Thank you all for listening to the podcast. So you can listen to a new episode of WABAN every single Saturday at noon Eastern Standard Time. And next week, next week is going to be Christmas Day. So we're going to be talking about Die Hard on Christmas Day. That's because it is a Christmas movie. Fight me on that.
Die on this hill.
All right. And the week after that, obviously, is going to be New Year's Day because, New Year's Day is a week after Christmas Day every year. Imagine that. I know.
Wow.
So we're actually, we talked about this beforehand. We're going to do actually wow, I just missed what I was saying. We're going to do a New Year's special episode. So we might start with doing New Year's resolutions, things like that. But the rest of it, we're actually going to be looking back at all of the things we've reviewed before, all of the movies and shows, and doing rankings. So we're going to rank the 3 shows we've talked about. We're both going to create our own ranking lists, and we're going to kind of compare. We might make guesses on who put what in what spots. Just, I think it'll be a fun time to do that. So, so that'll be a few weeks now. Maybe we can make a lists ranking our the guests as well. No, we're not doing that.
That'd just be mean.
Yeah, no, that was a joke. That was a joke. Obviously.
Which one of our guests did you hate the most?
No, I liked all of our guests. I didn't dislike any of them, but they're all great. No, imagine that. We'll just rank our guests right here. We'll open the podcast that way, so that's the first thing people hear on it too.
So they just immediately have a sour taste in their mouth as we judge people that we really don't know all that well.
We judge people that we've talked to once, or in one case twice. But yeah, so we'll rank all the movies we talked about, which we just tallied up them before we started. There's 17, so there'll be a 17 spot ranking. So maybe we'll make that a yearly tradition around New Year's. We could do that every year. I mean, obviously it's not going to be on New Year's Day every year because it's not on Saturday every year, obviously. But yeah, that'll be exciting. And then after that, we have a few options that we might go with for the week after that. So we already know what the next TV show we're going to talk about is, which is Legend of Korra. We might start that the week after New Year's, but we were thinking we were talking before the podcast. I mentioned we were talking about The Matrix because there's the new Matrix movie is coming out. And so we thought it might be interesting to review and talk about the original Matrix on here, because that would be a good one to do. So we might do that the week after New Year's, or we might do the first season of Legend of Korra.
We'll figure it out.
We'll decide by then. But yeah, so that's everything you can look forward to on the podcast. Another thing that you can look forward to in the start of the new year is we should be starting to upload the gaming videos on YouTube, finally, that we've been mentioning for a little bit here.
We've set a deadline.
We set a deadline, the beginning of January, first week of January. Not sure the exact day, but hopefully, should be the first week of January, first gaming video on the WABAN YouTube channel. You can find the WABAN YouTube channel by clicking the link in the description of this podcast that I have. And you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's a link in the description to that. And I haven't uploaded any newer videos in a while, but I do plan on that. I actually do have a plan for a possible video on Nim TV, my YouTube channel, on Christmas Day.
Whoa, first time hearing it.
So, yeah, I have a potential idea for that. So it's going to be me looking back at my first ever short film that I ever made. The first short film I ever made was a Christmas short film that came out, that was released on Christmas Day 4 years ago. And I'm going to be doing like a video looking back at it and sort of criticizing it and sort of discussing, kind of just discussing how I could have done it better if I were to do it again. Because, it's really bad. It's not it's very bad.
It's terrible. It's your first one.
Yeah. And it's before I really learned anything about video production. So I didn't really know anything of what I was doing. So I'm probably going to do that on Christmas Day. That's something I want to start doing on my channel in general, is start reviewing each like short film / thing that I made back then, like 4 years after it came out, on the day 4 years. So that, and then, pretty soon there was a couple more that I did 4 years ago in like the year, for whatever's 4 years before 2022. So I'm going to start doing that. So that might be a fun thing.
Yeah, that's a neat idea.
And in the year 2022, I plan on hopefully uploading at least one new video to Nim TV every month. So that is sort of something I'm working on planning out now. So yeah, that'll be exciting. Anyways, thank you all for listening. There's multiple places you can listen to this podcast on if you would like to. There's multiple audio platforms and also the WABAN YouTube channel, which I had already mentioned. But yeah, you can also find this podcast on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, and Radio Public. So whichever platform works best for you go for it. Anyways, thank you all for listening. I've been Nim.
And I'm Cub.
All right. Groovy.
Groovy.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.